Earlier in the year, I did a two-part message on the call to leadership. And today I am working within that idea a little bit and working with it a little bit more. So my message, I'm doing a two-part message this week and next week, titled Gifts and Calling. Gifts and Calling. And this is part one of Gifts and Calling. Gifts and calling lie at the heart of every leadership vocation. For us to exercise leadership in any area of life, we must know our gifts and our calling. And throughout the Bible, we see a pattern of people being called to step into leadership roles. They are not all called the same way. However, there is a point in the lives of people when they sense that a demand is being placed on them to step into leadership. And that point is the point where they become aware that their lives must be lived for a higher purpose, to live for something bigger than just their own personal lives. We call it a calling. And a calling can be a calling to the ministry, but each one of us has a calling one way or the other. And it's important for us to know when that moment comes when God demands you to step forward into your leadership role. I'm going to start with two passages of scripture, and that is Romans chapter 12, verses 6 and 7, and then 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 10 to 11. Romans 12, 6 to 7, 1 Peter 4, 10 to 11. So I'll read a passage from Romans. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Or ministry, let us use it in our ministry. He who teaches in teaching. In prophecy, prophesy. In ministry, minister. In teaching, teach. Then 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 10 to 11. As each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it with the ability which God supplies, that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belong the glory and the dominion forever and ever. Amen. Now, although this passage is directly speaking about our spiritual gifts and how to use them, the principle there applies to our natural gifts as well. So it's not just about how to use our spiritual gifts, but also how to use our natural gifts. And a few thoughts I want to bring to your notice. The first is that we learn from this passage, especially the Romans passage, that our gifts are not the same. Our gifts are not the same. Having different gifts, or gifts that differ according to the grace that is given to us. Our gifts differ. No two gifts are exactly the same, because every gift is personalized. You can have two people with a teaching gift, but they would manifest that gift differently. You can have two people with a gift to be artists or draw, but they would draw differently. You can have two people with a gift for music, but they will sing differently. So although the gifts may be generally the same, when it is manifested in an individual, it's never the same. There's no one on this planet who has the gifts you have, because every gift is personalized to the individual. So our gifts are not the same. Secondly, our gifts manifest God's ability in us. The fact that we have any gift is an indication that God's grace is at work in us. The fact that there is an ability you have to do something is a sign that God's grace is at work in you. Our gifts manifest God's ability in us. Thirdly, our gifts require good stewardship. First Peter says, as each one of us has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. A steward is one who takes care of something that belongs to another, or something that has been entrusted into his care. So, whatever God gives to us, we are stewards of it. We have to take hold of it, and we have to properly take care to use it. We have to be good stewards of the grace of God that has been given to us. The quality of our stewardship will shape the quality of our gift. In other words, if God gives me a gift and gives you a gift, and you use your gift well or become a good steward of your gift will function well for you. If I don't use my gift well and I'm not a good steward of my gift will not function well for me. So it's not just a matter of receiving a gift from God. It is the stewardship that we give to the gift that will determine the quality of the gift and how far it goes. And the fourth point I want to make is that our gifts should be our area of operation. And this is so important. Our gifts should be the area of our operation. Remember, the passage says, if prophecy, let us prophesy. Or ministry, let us minister. He who teaches in teaching. So your gift is the basis of what you do. If the gift is a gift of teaching, you don't go and sing. If the gift is a gift of prophecy, you don't go and teach. Because you have to operate in the strength of your gifting. That is what is going to set you out. There are over 7 billion people on this earth. You cannot stand out by copying. You can only stand out by being unique. So if God gives you a gift, you operate in that gift. In prophecy, let us prophesy. In ministry, let us minister. In teaching, let us teach. So you operate according to your gift. Remember, although the context is spiritual gifts, the principle applies to all other gifts. If I have the gift of art, I have to art. I have to use it. If I cannot say, well, God has gifted me as an artist, but I really like to be an engineer. I will be an engineer, but I will always be a second-class, mediocre engineer who would never stand out for anybody to follow. You have to operate in the area of your gifting. It's so critical to leadership development in life. So, what constitutes our gift? What is it? When we say something is a gift, what do we mean? Remember, the leadership is about competence. People follow those whom they believe know what they are doing. And when somebody shows competence, we submit our views to that person. We willingly follow others when they show competence. If somebody knows a lot about football and they start talking about football, we keep quiet. Somebody knows more law than us and they start talking about law, we keep quiet. Somebody knows more about medicine, they start talking about medicine, we keep quiet. Because once somebody shows competence in an area, others follow them. That's why it's so important that in life you become competent. But you cannot be competent in a vacuum. You have to be competent in the area of your gifting. Because the area of your gifting gives you an advantage before the race starts. It is God's investment in you before you even start living. God gives you an advantage. So what constitute our gifting? 4 areas that will help us to really work to know what our gifting is. First is talent. The first thing that shows our area of gifting is talent. Talent is what we can do naturally. It's the thing that we're able to do without much effort. And talent is important. Because talent has to do with the way your brain is wired. It's the way you process your thoughts. It's the way you are you. So talent is not just what you do, it's the way you think. It is our disposition to do something easily. It could be the ability to tell a story easily, to make things up easily. You know, when children are growing, there are those who make things up easily. We may call them liars, but they're too young to be lying. A 3-year-old who says, my father has a big elephant in his room. And yesterday he brought a big train, and the train is in his bedroom. Now he's not really lying because he's too young to have a motive for lying. What he's doing is he has a fertile imagination. Are you getting it? He's able to think about things which are not there and see them to be there. They are able to create. It is the power of imagination at work. Obviously, you have to teach the person morality later in life. Otherwise, they would use that power of imagination to do very bad things. But if you guide them well, they would become extremely imaginative and creative. But it comes so naturally. Other children can do that. They only talk about what is there. My father has a small table. So it is the ability to do things easily. It comes with the ability to make things with your hands, think through ideas, to sell things, to fix problems, or to speak convincingly, or some other predisposition. It's the way you are wired. You don't learn to do it. It comes naturally to you. Each one of us has a talent. Talent is great, but talent is not everything. It is where you start your leadership development process from. But it's not where you end. You don't end with talent. You start with it because you need other things beyond talent. You need passion. Passion is what you really love doing. Passion is what is called fire in the belly. It is what you feel very strongly about. Without passion, talent will die. Without passion, talent will be dormant. So passion is what is going to drive you. Passion is like the engine in a car. The car may have a nice body, that's the talent. Very nice. It may be a nice Mercedes-Benz, the latest, or a Rolls-Royce, or Bentley, or some, really exotic car. Nice color, nice body. But if it doesn't move, it's of no value. So something must move it. The engine, there has to be a power that drives it. That power that drives this nice car is what I call passion. There are people with a nice talent, but no engine. So they sit there, they become display for other people to watch. They never move anywhere. They never get anything done. Because in life, you're going to have valleys. You're going to have mountains. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have difficulties. What is going to make you move against those difficulties is not your talent. It's your passion. It's the engine, the four-wheel drive engine that goes through rugged terrain and moves your talent to where it has to go. So you must have talent. It's important, but you must have fire in your belly, engine in your system. You must have passion. There are people who have talent but have no passion. It creates dissatisfaction. They don't love what they are doing, although they are talented with it, but they don't like it. So they are always dissatisfied. Then there are those who know they have their talent and really have the engine to drive it, passion. They get satisfaction. On the other hand, there are those who don't know what to do, but love doing it. In other words, they have no talent, but they have passion. So it's like somebody who has no musical talent, but has a passion for music. He sings, and he's always out of tune, but he's passionate. Now, if you are like that, you will be very, very frustrated in life. And because there are people who are always passionate about something. You know, when we were children, there were people who are passionate about football. They are very passionate. They are the first on the football field. They are the ones who are buying new jerseys and they are very excited, but they don't know how to play. And there are people who are passionate about medicine who are not scientific. Passionate about engineering. They are not methodical in their minds. They are very artistic. Now, how come sometimes people are passionate about something which they can't do? I think next week I'll address it a little further in that area. But let me give you this. Most times it's because maybe they are in an environment where everybody is doing something. If you are born in an environment of lawyers, you may think you must be a lawyer when your wiring is not lawyerly at all. So here you are quoting ipso facto and all these Latin words, but you are not a lawyer. You lose all your cases in the court. You have passion for something, but no talent for it. So, good to have talent, good to have passion. Number 3 that determines what your gifting is your experiences, what you've done in life, or what life has done to you. Experience is when talent and passion meets reality. It's when you apply your talent and passion in real life situations. Experience is a great teacher. Experience helps you to perfect yourself. You want to know what your gift is? Look at your talent, look at your passion, look at your experience. And number 4 is your training. Your training is what you've learned to do. This is what you go to school for. Training can be both formal and informal. Sometimes your formal training may be in line with your talent and passion, but most times your formal training may not be directly related to your talent and your passion. Most times, I would say probably about 80% of the time, the formal training we have may not be in direction with our passion. So how do you handle it? When you've gone to school to learn something, but you have another passion. Maybe you want to be a musician, but you're going to learn engineering. Does it mean that going to school to learn engineering is waste of time? No, it's not a waste of time. You see, it's like, what happens when you build a building in a waterway? So the water is supposed to flow in a certain direction, but there is a building there. So where your water has to flow, that's your talent. This is supposed to flow this way, but your education is sitting in the middle of it. So it seems like your education is obstructing what you're supposed to do. But it doesn't. Because when there is a rainfall, the water will find a way around the building and create a new waterway. So sometimes, immediately, you may not see the benefit of your training to your talent. But over time, you will find a way to engineer your engineering into your music. Are you following me? So you don't necessarily have to go to school to learn in line with your passion and your talent. You may not see the immediate connection, but over time, there will be a convergence because something in you is going to rediscover that path. And when it discovers it, it will even be richer because now you have a different training mixing up with a natural talent. You're going to create something far more profound and greater. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything you learn in school has to be in line with your talent. But everything you will learn will find a way into your talent if you have passion. You may be an artist. You may be a musician. You may be a lawyer. You may be a doctor. By training, but your talent may be in a different direction. Over time, there will be a meeting point. So don't discard your training. And don't throw away your degree. You may not use your degree to earn money, but the degree will fuel your talent to create a new chemical composition that is unique to you. That is why in life, some of the most successful people have done things in life which were opposite what they went to school for. But if you interview all of them, they found a way to use what they went to school for in line with the talent that they have discovered. So he may have studied history, but he's now into banking. He studied philosophy, but he's now an engineer. And you say, how can he add philosophy to engineering? A philosophical engineer is a more profound engineer. All right. So don't discard your training. Don't throw it away. It's valuable. So training, experiences, passion, talent. Mix the four together. You will know what your gift is. Our gifts are God's investment into our lives. Our calling is our investment into people's lives. So, what's the difference between a gift and a calling? Because I'm going to go into what a calling is. A gift is what God has given to you. A calling is what you are giving to the world. So when it comes to gifting, you receive a gift. When it comes to calling, you are the gift. You are now a blessing to people. It is your calling that makes you a blessing. You may be gifted, but if you don't have a sense of calling, your gift has no benefit to other people. It is that sense that my life must now be lived for a certain purpose that makes your gift important. There are a lot of people with a gifting, no sense of calling. And there are people with a sense of calling, no gift. But when the two work together, you receive a gift from God and you become a gift. God blesses you with something and now you seek to bless the world by yourself. Then you become a calling. So let's move to calling. Our calling. Generally, there are three ways I would want us to look at calling. There is what I call the general calling. The general calling for the Christian is a call for you to come to Jesus, to be born again. God calls on all of us to be born again. It's what I call the general calling. It's a calling to all humanity to receive Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. That's our general calling. Second is our Christian calling. Our Christian calling is the call to be like Christ. This is the call to all Christians to live the Christian life. Now, when I talk about calling, I am not referring to general calling, the call to come to Jesus, to be born again. There is a calling for that, but that's not what I'm addressing. I'm not addressing the Christian calling, the calling to be like Christ. There is a calling like that, but that's not what I'm addressing. I'm addressing a third kind of calling, and that is vocational calling. The calling to work for Christ. The calling to work for Christ. Now this is a calling to all Christians. It is a calling to manifest God's kingdom in our lives. Now, under vocational calling, there are two kinds, and I don't like using the differentiation, but I would still use it. There is what we call sacred calling. Sacred calling. It is when God calls people into ministry. As pastors, as teachers, evangelists, missionaries, and so on. That is a sacred calling. And then there is what is called secular calling. It is calling to all other areas of life, as a lawyer, as a carpenter, as a singer, and so on and so forth. The reason I don't like doing the differentiation is because I believe that all calling is sacred. Whether you're called to be a lawyer or you're called to be a pastor, all of you are doing God's work, but in different fields. So, my calling in the pulpit is not more valuable than your calling in the law courts, if you're really doing it as a calling, or the classroom as a teacher, or a businessman making money, so far as you bring the money to the house of God. All right. So in that sense, all of us are working for God. We are creating things for God. The carpenter is creating chairs or beds. The teacher is molding minds and character. The lawyer is bringing justice, hopefully. The judge is bringing justice. The doctor is bringing health and healing to people. All of them are working with God. The musician is bringing joy and happiness to people. All of them are working for God. And for each one of us, we have to see our call as a holy calling. Whether you are in the church or you are in the marketplace, it's a holy calling. If you see your business as a ministry, your doctoring as a ministry, your lawyering as a ministry, your carpentry as a ministry, and all of that as a ministry, your whole perspective about how you work will change. You know, because sometimes people say, Pastor, this is the business world. You can't bring the Bible here. You can't bring God to the business world because things are different. Now, we're supposed to take God to the marketplace. We're supposed to take God to the business world. We're supposed to take God to the academic world. So once we see our business as sacred, then we really want to find out, how do we bring God on the scene? How does Christ become manifest in my business? So in that sense, I would say all vocations in the name of Christ are sacred. All vocations. Whether you're a politician, you're a pastor, it's all sacred. We are all working for God in different fields of endeavor. One is not superior to the other. Although pastors like to think that ours is a higher calling. I'm not going to say much about that. All right. Now, so if that is it, how do people receive calling? How do people receive their calling? How do people get to know that they are really supposed to be doing this. Now, because, when I start saying, well, all calling is sacred, people say, well, but I didn't hear anything. I didn't see a vision. I didn't hear an angel. So how can you say I'm called to do this? I'm going to show you 6 characters in the Bible, 6 individuals in the Bible, and their callings. And I'm just going to show you that all callings don't come the same way. And maybe you'll find one of it that identifies with the way you feel God called you into whatever you are doing. So 6 of them. The first is Moses. Moses' calling is what I call the sovereign revelation. Moses received a sovereign revelation from God. Exodus chapter 3, verse 6, from Exodus chapter 3, verse 9 and 10. After Moses had seen the burning bush, this is what God said to him. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me. I've also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I'll send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, Moses' call is a little tricky because Moses had 2 different calls. The first one happened 40 years earlier when he sensed in his heart that he must go and redeem the Israelites. And he went and it didn't work. And 40 years later, he has this divine encounter. So one came in his heart, one came from a big spiritual encounter. He sees the bush that is burning and a voice talking from the bush. Believe you me, if you see that, you will know you are called. Is that not so? I mean, if I'm walking through town one day and I see a bush burning, but the thing is not being burned. There's fire on the tree, and the tree is talking to me. Either I'll think that something's wrong with my brain, or I'll really believe God is really speaking to me. So this is how Moses' call came. Now, why did God choose to tell him that? I don't know, but I think Moses had inferiority complex, and God had to do something more dramatic to get his attention. Because even after this, he said to God, you know me, I can speak, I can talk, I can do it. Now, if I had that in a tree, I would be Superman. There'll be nothing I can't do it. I even when I haven't seen it, I believe I can do all things. But Moses had inferiority complex. So God had to dramatically demonstrate to him his calling. It doesn't mean it's a superior calling. As a matter of fact, I believe that the less confident you are, the more dramatic your call. Moses. So sovereign call. How many of you are going to see this? I can guarantee none of you will see a burning bush. All right. But sovereign revelation where you see this big apparition and you hear a voice. So that's one way of people receiving their call. Second is David. Let's look at David's call. David received a prophetic revelation. He didn't see any bush. He didn't even know he was called. He was just, taking care of sheep. But 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 1, that the Lord said to Samuel, how long will you mourn for Saul? Seeing I've rejected him from reigning of Israel. Fill your horn with oil and go. I'm sending you to the house of Jesse, to the Bethlehem, for I have provided myself a king among his sons. So David is just living his normal life. He's about to be discovered. So some people receive their call in life not because they were pursuing something, but somebody discovered them. They were discovered. And in this case, Samuel discovered David. David's call came through Samuel. Samuel received instruction from God to anoint the next king of Israel. He knew the town and the family, but did not know the individual. In time, he discovered David and anointed him. So sometimes it may not be you having a big moment like Moses. It may be you are just there managing your own affair and you are discovered. You're discovered. And that's how People rise into leadership. Samuel discovered David. Third, Joseph. How was Joseph called? Joseph received a private revelation. Genesis chapter 37 from verse 5 to 7. Now Joseph had a dream and he told it to his brothers and they hated him even more. And he said to him, please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were. Oh God, Joseph, why should he say that? There we were binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And indeed, your sheaf stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf. This is not what you tell your brothers, but now Joseph had a dream. Whatever that dream is, we don't know. But he interpreted it to mean that he's going to rise above his brothers. So here is somebody who has a moment in his life where he encounters something that gives him the confidence that he will be great. So for Joseph, there's no burning bush, there's no prophet Samuel, it's just a personal conviction based on what he has seen that he will be great in the future. So there are people who receive their call that way. There's no prophet coming to them, there's no burning bush, but they just believe that they will rise and become great. And that's how Joseph received his calling. And he rose up eventually after many years of trouble to become that. Let's look at Elisha. How did Elisha receive his calling? He received the calling from his mentor. 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 15 and 16. This is God speaking to Elijah. Elijah. So God said to Elijah, go return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, anoint Hazael as king of Assyria. Also, you shall anoint Jehu, the son of Nimshi, as king of Israel, and Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, you shall anoint as prophet in your place. Then verse 19, so he departed from there and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he was with the 12. Then Elijah passed by him and threw his mantle on him. Elisha was called by Elijah, his mentor. Now when you read the passage, it will seem as if they didn't know each other, but I think you get an impression that there was already a relationship between Elijah and Elisha, because God says to him, go and anoint Hazael, anoint Jehu, and anoint Elisha as your successor. So Elijah goes around with his mantle and puts his mantle, his cloth, the prophetic mantle, throws it on Elisha and walks away. And Elisha takes off, stops his business, and follows Elijah. Did he see a burning bush? No. Did he even receive a call, come and follow me? No. Somebody just threw a mantle on him and he deduced, I must follow this man. This is when a mentor places a demand on you. So, one of the things people have to understand, especially those in the ministry, people are not all called the same way. God called Abraham. Abraham called Isaac. God didn't call Isaac. Abraham called Isaac. God called Abraham. Abraham calls Isaac. The way God deals with first generation is not always the same way as he deals with second generation. You cannot say, well, Abraham, you heard from God, so I'm not going to follow. I'm also going to go to Ur of the Chaldees and start my journey from Ur of the Chaldees. Then maybe I'll hear a voice from God. No. The call doesn't come the same way. All right. Number 5. Nehemiah. How did Nehemiah receive his call? Nehemiah received a personal burden. And this is how he himself records it. Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 1 to 4. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Machaliah. It came to pass in the month of Chislev in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan, the citadel, That Hanani, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived, and the captivity concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the survivors who left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down. Its gates are burnt with fire. Verse 4. So it was when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. That's how Nehemiah had his call. He was a good public servant, working, and then he hears troubling news about Jerusalem. It creates a burden for him. He starts praying and fasting about it, and he rises up to go to Jerusalem. Did God speak to him? No, he had a burden. So sometimes people receive a burden simply by what is happening around him. Maybe one day you're walking through Accra and you see a small boy trying to cross the street all by himself. And something just hits you. And you go home, you can't get the image of that boy out of your mind. You start saying, what will happen to him? Where is he going? Who is his mother? How come he's all by himself? And you pray and think about it. The next time you try to find out, how do I create a center for street boys? Now, how did you get a call? God spoke to you? No. Did you see a burning bush? No. Did a prophet say it? No. Did somebody put a mantle on you? No. You just saw something that burdened your heart, and you entered and stepped in to solve the problem. Was it a legitimate call? Yes. As legitimate as Moses? Yes. He didn't see a bush? Yes. But he heard news. And sometimes all you do is hear something that burdens you. And you just feel, I must do something about this. I must solve this problem. Maybe you just came to church and just stood in church and started crying because you're watching people walking in and out, and you start crying. What can I do for these people? And all of a sudden an idea is born in your heart to do something. Or sometimes maybe you see a mother with a child at the back, and she's pregnant, she has a child, she's carrying one child at the back, and you just stand there crying. And you wonder, why am I crying? I don't even know her. Something is being birthed in your spirit. A call is being born out of you. And if you would follow that call, you'll be amazed what God will use that little burden in your heart to accomplish. Have you wept about situations that don't concern you? Have you heard something that burdened your heart? Have you heard something that really made you feel like, I must do something about it? It could be a calling. Could be a calling. Last one is Esther. Esther's calling. Esther received a public demand. A demand from the people. Most politicians will say that's how they receive their call. The people. Esther chapter 4. Esther is a queen enjoying her life, and then there's trouble. Her people are about to be killed. So chapter 4 verse 13 to 14. Then Mordecai told them to answer Esther, do not think in your heart that you escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. This is when people begin to demand you to play a role. You didn't want to do it, but everybody says, come and help us. Stand for us. Be our leader. Speak for us. We need you. That's what is happening to Esther. Left to her, she's not going to do anything about this. But now a burden is placed on her. People demand from her. So I've shown you 6 different ways that people have been called. Were they all used by God? Yes. Did they do profound things? Yes. Did they achieve greatness? Yes. Were they all called the same way? No. Did they all see a vision? No. Did they all see a burning bush? No. So look at yourself and ask yourself, can I relate to any of these 6? Was there a moment in my life when I really feel by any of these experiences that This is what my life is supposed to be about. And sometimes the calling comes because somebody fails. And you are called to serve. If Saul had been successful, there would be no David. Sometimes your calling is a substitute calling. You were on the substitution bench. And the guy on the field was messing up the team. So the coach says, get him out and get you in. And you step in and score the winning goal. Sometimes somebody's failure will be the time for you to rise. When God calls you like David and says, Saul is messed up, you go and fix it. Many people who have been successful in life were like David. Somebody messed up. And in the twinkling of an eye, they were asked to replace. And they performed. And the rest, as they say, is history. Your call can come in any of these ways. Everybody who becomes a leader in a profound way has gifts, but at a certain point in their lives, they felt this. I would say that my calling came very close to the way Joseph's calling came. Just deep in my heart, knowing by certain indications what my life is supposed to be. Nobody threw a mantle on me. I didn't see a burning bush. I haven't seen one. I prayed for a long time to see one. Didn't see one. I tried to see nothing. But at a point in my life, and I can tell exactly that point when I believe without any shadow of doubt what my life was all supposed to be about. And I believe what I had to do, just like Joseph, from the heart. Now, for some people, it will be somebody putting a mantle on you. For some people, it will be because somebody failed, so you step in. For some people, it could be like Esther. Everybody is saying, listen, stand up, do it, do it. For some, it's like Nehemiah. You start weeping over a situation. But each one of them, at a point in their lives, knew that they had a calling to step into leadership. So what do you do? And let me conclude with this. What do you do? All calls respond to a need. All calls respond to a need. Every call is necessitated by a need. Without a need, there is no calling. Without sickness, there will be no need for a doctor. Without lack of knowledge, there will be no need for a teacher. Without sin, there is no need for the preaching of the gospel. Every call is there to meet a need. So once God calls you, you have to know that you are necessary. You are needed. All calls demand a response. When God calls you, a call has to be responded to. You can either say yes to your calling, yes to your gifts, or no to it. Or you can say, I don't know. This is one case where no and I don't know are the same. If God calls you and you say yes, you enter. You say no, He may wait on you, or He'll pick somebody else to do what you're supposed to be doing. If you delay the response to the call, you may not reach your efficient level, because callings have to do with times and season. And if you are born out of season, life becomes very hard. It's like a 20-year-old in class 1. Will he learn? Yes. But he's learning with a different class, different mates. Things that he should have done earlier, it will take him a longer time to do it. He will achieve something, but not to the full potential. That's why when God calls you, you have to say yes quickly. Don't be passive. Every call requires a response. And all calls will impose a responsibility. A call will change your life. It will make demands on you. It will demand your time, your energy, your focus. There are people here that God is calling who look at themselves and like Moses say, but Lord, I can't speak. God says, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. He says, Lord, I can't speak. Because you look at your own self and you wonder, how can I do it? But don't you ever think that God knows you more than you know yourself? And so you're struggling within. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Every calling has a risk element to it. Elisha had to leave his business to enter a new business. And he killed the oxen, sacrificed them, and moved on. What if he fails? It's a possibility. I've asked myself many times, what if I had failed? Quit my job, entered ministry, started this church. What if it had not worked? What if we're still in a classroom with 20 people after 32, 33 years? It's possible. I could still be in a small classroom because there are friends of mine who are still in a classroom after 30 years. It's possible. You can't predict the outcome, but you have to take the step. Because you can't know what will be until you step out. You can't be too cautious in life. Always trying to make sure everything is working out well. There has to be a moment of action. And hopefully, you can be better guided than I was when I started. I didn't know all the things I know now. Nobody clarified these issues to me. But you have better information to make better choices into your calling. Some of you are being called into ministry. Some of you are being called into business. Some of you are being called to step up because there is an empty field. There is a Saul that has been removed out of the way, and God is saying, step in there. Will there be battles? Yes. When David stepped in, do you think he just got anointed and all of a sudden, whoo, next king of Israel? No, he had to face Goliath. Then Saul tried to kill him for the next 13 years of his life. Next 10 years or so of his life. Chasing him, hiding in caves and so on and so on and so forth. But eventually he became king. Don't ever think that saying yes means everything will be solved. No, Saul will come after you. You're going to face conspiracies. But their yes is the beginning point. It's when you say, I'm available, Lord. For some of you in the business world, God is calling you to do magnificent things, but you're still playing in small areas with your friends. Because a call will demand a lot from you. You use your time differently. Your friends will have to change. Your focus will have to change. Time management will have to change. You can't spend all your life joking. Once you have a call, you manage your time differently. And I pray that each one of you would not just be a passenger in life. Just a passenger who came and moved. But then history will record that you were here and the earth felt your presence. You step into your calling, whether in business, in teaching, in medicine, in whatever area, in law, you stepped into that place to become the person that God has called you to be. And I pray your life will not be ordinary. Your life will not be normal. You will not stay at the low level. You will not be where everybody is at. But you will step out like David. You step out like Moses. You step out like Elisha. You step out and fulfill your destiny. And may your destiny be great. May your future be great. May your story be massive. And may you step into greatness. In this year of leadership, may you rise to be the best, the topmost, the highest in your field of endeavor. In Jesus' name, amen. Somebody say, I receive it. Before we close, why don't you just lift up your hands to God? Some of you need to say yes to Him. He's calling you. He's calling you. You know it. The stirring is in your heart. The burden is there, but you've been afraid. But He's calling you. You just have to say, yes, Lord, I'm ready. It's my calling. It is my moment. And I'm ready to face my Goliath. I'm ready to face the Saul. I'm ready to step into the enemy's camp. I'm ready to kill the bear. I'm ready to fight the lions. I'm ready, Lord. I'm ready. Just say yes and see what God will do. I will face Pharaoh. Just talk to Him. Talk to Him. Too much passivity. Too much analysis. Too much debate in your heart. It's time to respond. Talk to Him, talk to Him, talk to Him. Talk to Him, talk to Him, talk to Him. Roma de Amama Zoko Riendarabosha. And let your will be done in our lives. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What we bind on earth is bound in heaven. And today what we lose on earth is losing in heaven. We lose favor, we lose grace, we lose open doors, we lose access. On here on earth, it is losing in heaven on behalf of your children. In Jesus' name. And everybody shout amen. Amen. God bless you.